Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
Previously on Stellar Vault. Humanity was kicked out of the Galactic Council. The aliens thought they could manage the threat on their own, until the swarm came. Now, they're begging Earth to return. But humanity doesn't forget being cast out, and we don't come back empty-handed. Atlas Reach Command dimmed the lights in its strategic core as the Sildari data core synchronized with human systems. Thin holographic filaments branched out from the projection spheres, weaving together fractured recordings into something coherent. Engineers, analysts, tacticians, and signal officers watched the evolving display with quiet precision. General Weiss stood at the center platform, hands behind his back, posture straight and still. Counselor O'Neill stood to his right, eyes fixed on the projections. Kravax Tylex remained slightly behind them, crest lowered. Not out of shame this time, but out of the weight that came with remembering the dead. "No unnecessary commentary," Weiss said to the room. "If it doesn't help us kill the swarm faster, don't say it." The analysts nodded. They were used to him. The first reconstructed visual stabilized, a Sildari cruiser rupturing along its spine as a silent distortion wave swept through its hull. Kravax flinched. Humans didn't. Weiss tapped the side of the holosphere. "Freeze!" The frame held steady. A column of geometric distortion twisted across the ship's midsection. "Analyze the waveform," Weiss ordered. A young physicist had stepped forward. "It's not radiation, not kinetic, not thermal. Some kind of spatial shear with an inverted harmonic component." "And defense?" Weiss asked. "None," the physicist replied. "It bypasses shields entirely." "Noted," Weiss said. "Next." The scene advanced. Kralon vessels, sleek, angular, grown rather than built, emerged from the darkness, their golden vein lines pulsing like beating hearts. Organic plating flexed and shifted as they adjusted course, reshaping in real time. Kravax swallowed hard. "They changed their hull geometry during combat. We didn't understand it, until it was too late." One of the engineers spoke without looking away from the display. "They're adapting to incoming fire patterns." Weiss's voice stayed level. "Cycle to the next engagement. Show me their reaction time." The holo shifted again. A Sildari destroyer fired bright arcs of energy. For 2 seconds, the Kralon ships took direct hits. On the third second, the Kralon hulls rippled, and the arcs bent away as though deflected by invisible currents. O'Neill spoke softly. "They learn." "Faster than any species we've encountered," Kravax whispered. Weiss didn't blink. Their first mistake. The foreign officers exchanged confused looks, but Weiss kept watching, analyzing, calculating. "Everything learns," he said, "but everything that learns has a moment before the lesson sticks." He pointed. The holo zoomed in on the 2-second window where the Kralon hadn't yet adapted. "That," Weiss said, "is where we strike." The room remained still. No cheers, no dramatic reaction. Just an entire war council internalizing their first actionable insight. The analysis went on for hours. Weiss demanded timelines, adaptation rates, biological breakdowns, distortion field behavior, swarm communication latency, resource harvesting patterns, and expansion vectors. Humans didn't panic at the data. Humans organized the data. Kravax watched with awe as a dozen minds assembled what the Sildari and the Council had only glimpsed. Finally, Weiss stepped back from the holomap. "We have enough to plan the first test." O'Neill nodded once. "Containment and observation?" "Exactly." Kravax frowned. "Observation? You intend to watch them?" Weiss gave him the kind of look only a seasoned commander could deliver. You don't win a war by swinging blindly. You win by understanding who you're swinging at. He turned toward the operations pit. Initiate Thunder Protocols Phase 1. Lights dimmed to crimson. Systems shifted to silent alert mode. Tactical projectors lit up across the station. O'Neill straightened his shoulders. Let's find one of their scouts. Study it. Kill it. Repeat. Kravax stared between the two humans. You plan to fight the swarm with patience? Patience, Weiss said. Discipline and timing. 3 hours later, the first ping came. A communications officer stiffened. General Weiss, long-range anomaly detected. Bearing 730, Mark 21. Size, small. Movement irregular. Define irregular, Weiss said. It's not boosting. It's gliding. Like it's sniffing the area. Kravax hissed softly. A vanguard organism. Kralon Scout. Weiss turned toward the tactical array. Single unit? Confirmed, sir. Perfect. Weiss pointed toward the launch deck. Deploy one patrol ship. The officer executed the order immediately, no hesitation. But behind O'Neill, Kravax's crest jerked upward in alarm. One ship? Kravax blurted, disbelief cutting through his voice. General, against a vanguard organism, that is suicide. Weiss didn't even turn. Not for us, he said. One is all we need. The patrol ship Spearhead launched from Atlas Reach, engines burning a clean white trail. Its crew moved with quiet efficiency. No boasting, no bravado, just readiness. As they approached the anomaly, the scanners resolved the silhouette. A Kralon Scout form. Small, skeletal, its hull shimmering with shifting plates. Golden veins pulsing like a heartbeat. The human pilot breathed out. Contact established. The creature moved. Too smooth, too fluid. A predatory glide. It scanned the Spearhead with a ripple of distortion. The pilot whispered, "It's studying us." "Good," Weiss said through comms. "Let it. Hold position." The swarm organism tilted, the plates along its spine adjusting to a pattern the humans couldn't interpret. Then it struck. A distortion wave slammed into the Spearhead, shaking the hull violently. Warning lights flared. Shields dropped to 70%. The tactical officer held his ground. "Shields holding! Recharging!" Kravax's voice came through the link, tense. "You need to run, now! It will adapt. It will—" Weiss cut him off. "That's the point." The next distortion wave came. Stronger, tighter, more focused. The shield flickered, dropped to 48%. The pilot gritted his teeth. "General, we can't take much more." "Yes, you can," Weiss said. Not harsh, certain. Hold for 2 more waves. The third hit came. Shields dropped to 30%. The fourth hit, 22. Weiss raised a hand. "Now. Fire!" The human ship unleashed a barrage. Plasma spikes, kinetic bolts, and a pair of cutting beams calibrated during the Sildari data analysis. The Kralon Scout reacted, plates shifting, but not fast enough. The human struck during the adaptation window. The beams sheared through the creature's spine. The kinetic rounds shattered a distortion gland. Plasma burned through its regeneration sacs. The organism convulsed silently, thrashing in vacuum. Weiss issued one more order. "Finish it!" The final shot ripped the Scout in half. Organic fragments drifted into the void. The battle lasted less than 20 seconds. The silence afterward lasted longer. O'Neill spoke first. "Damage?" "Minor hull breach," the pilot replied. 2 wounded. "And the organism?" O'Neill asked. "Dead," Weiss said. "More importantly, unjammed. It didn't transmit. We cut it off before it could evolve." Kravax stared at the floating remains in disbelief. "You beat it. A vanguard organism, with a single patrol ship." Weiss's tone was matter-of-fact. "We weren't trying to win." He nodded toward the drifting corpse. "We were learning. They brought the fragments aboard a sealed xenobiology lab. They retrieved sensor logs. They reconstructed distortion signatures. They mapped adaptation cycles down to the millisecond. Humans didn't celebrate. They built the next phase. And then, a piercing alarm. A secure channel blinked. A frequency long dormant. A code only O'Neill recognized. He exchanged a look with Weiss, then opened the channel. High Counselor Varid Sarev appeared, his crystalline form dimmed, fractal lights flickering with exhaustion. Counselor O'Neill. His voice was cracked. No, I owe you an apology. O'Neill remained composed. High Counselor, I assume this is about the swarm. Varid lowered his gaze. Entire sectors are falling. Our fleets, shattered. We realize now the Council erred gravely in stripping humanity of its authority. Weiss folded his arms, expression unreadable. Varid pressed forward. We ask, humbly, that Earth resume its post as High Military Advisor. We will provide resources, fleets, technology, anything. You will have command over all Council military assets. Weiss raised an eyebrow. Looks like the rules of the game changed. Varid winced, but didn't deny it. Will you accept, Counselor O'Neill? O'Neill's reply came soft, steady, unmistakably elegant. This is a time of war, High Counselor, and war is General Weiss's arena, not mine. Weiss stepped into view. Not confrontational, just firm. High Counselor, stabilize your borders. Keep your people alive. If we need your forces, we'll call you. Varid bowed his crystalline head. We will comply. And thank you. The line cut. Kravax lowered his crest in something between respect and awe. Weiss didn't look back. Prepare the fleet. Atlas Reach Command lit up with motion. Destroyers activated reactors. Carriers armed strike wings. Engineers sealed armored plates across hulls. Pilots gathered in briefing chambers. O'Neill watched from the upper deck, hands clasped behind his back. Weiss spoke quietly beside him. This was only a scout. O'Neill nodded. Next time, they'll come in force. Weiss's eyes hardened. Then we make sure we're ready. Humanity did not rush. Humanity did not panic. Humanity prepared. The first lesson was complete. The war was about to begin. The jump corridor cracked open like a tear in the fabric of night, and the human fleet surged into the system in a clean, disciplined formation. Engines burned with steady white fire. Hulls gleamed under distant starlight. No nervous chatter, no hurried maneuvers. Just the cold calm of soldiers who had already decided what this battle would mean. At the fleet's center, the Storm Warden, Thunderstorm Sector's command carrier, slid into position like a blade settling into its sheath. General Weiss stood at its forward tactical rail, eyes fixed on the readings crawling across the holotable. O'Neill stood beside him, hands clasped behind his back, the posture of a man taking in every detail while revealing none. Across from them, the Sildari cruiser Verdant Lance formed up on the right flank. Its emerald armor glowed faintly, alive with bioluminescent veins. Kravax Tylex stood in his own command cradle, crest lifted high, voice steady as he addressed his surviving warriors. We fight with honor. We fight for Tath Run, and today we fight with humans. A ritual phrase, spoken without shame. His crew answered with a low harmonic growl that reverberated through the ship's living walls. The planet hovered below. Tath Run, the jewel of the Sildari Dominion. Its forests had been stripped into wide, dead swaths. Mining scars stretched across continents. Ocean surfaces flickered with unnatural metallic sheen. The Kraylon harvesting cluster had been tearing it apart for cycles. Human sensors picked up dozens of Kraylon signatures orbiting low, crawling along the world's surface or hovering like carrion birds. "Visuals," Weiss ordered. The screen shifted. The Kralon cluster glowed with golden veins. Their vessels were half-organic constructs, shapes that shifted rather than flew. Hulls flexed as though breathing. A dozen harvesting pylons stabbed into the planet's surface, siphoning material through pulsing channels. O'Neill spoke quietly. "They've been feeding here for a while." Kravax's voice crackled across the link. "They turned my world into a carcass." Weiss didn't respond with sympathy. He didn't need to. What came next would speak for itself. "Fleet," he said. "Prepare for engagement." Human ships tightened formation. Energy signatures spiked. Weapons primed. Strike wings launched and held disciplined orbits. Weiss raised one hand. "On my mark." The Kralon cluster noticed them only when Weiss wanted it to. A ripple moved through their formation. Distortion waves flared across the void. Their vessels shifted, plates reconfiguring into spear-like attack shapes. The swarm had recognized a threat. "Good," Weiss murmured. "Let them come." They came. The first wave shot forward, sleek predators with distortion glands pulsing along their flanks. Golden light streaked behind them like comet tails. "Hold formation," Weiss ordered. The Sildari commander's crest twitched in confusion. "You're letting them close? This is suicide." "No," Weiss said. "This is control." The swarm crashed into firing range. "Mark!" The void lit up. Human destroyers unleashed synchronized torpedo volleys, 8 ships firing in perfect rhythm. The first volley hit raw hull before adaptation. The second volley struck newly forming armor plates. The third volley hit the adaptation window, the moment before the swarm's new defenses solidified. Kralon vessels tore apart in sprays of molten gold. Kravax hissed, "Your timing is unnatural." "It's practice," Weiss replied. "Kill the left flank." Kravax relayed the order. The verdant lance blossomed with Sildari energy arcs, emerald beams cutting delicate, precise paths through shifting swarm armor. Where humans struck brutally, the Sildari landed surgical blows. For one long moment, the combined fleet held the line. Then the swarm adapted. Distortion waves rolled outward, bending human projectiles and warping Sildari beams. Armor reshaped. A second wave surged forward, faster, coordinated, relentless. Weiss watched calmly. Phase 2. Human corvettes broke formation and dove beneath the swarm line, dropping fragmentation pods, hundreds of microcharges that detonated in expanding webs, shredding sensor nodules and disrupting hive-link cohesion. That bought seconds. Seconds were enough. "Recenter the line," Weiss ordered. "Target distortion glands. Don't let them stabilize." The battlefield dissolved into chaos. Kralon vessels rammed human hulls, tearing metal with organic blades. Fighters spiraled between distortion bursts. Plasma lances burned clean lines across the void. Kravax's ship swept in and out of close orbit, firing precise volleys at hive-link relay organisms. The Storm Warden fired a full broadside, coherent particle beams slicing a Kralon cruiser in half. But the swarm was learning. Adaptation waves grew tighter, faster. Their firing patterns shifted unpredictably. Then the worst happened. A Kralon crusher beast latched onto the verdant lance, its living armor boring into the Sildari hull. Kravax roared something primal. "They're breaching!" Weiss didn't hesitate. "All ships, intercept that organism, now!" A trio of human frigates peeled off, unleashing concentrated fire on the crusher beast. The creature's plating rippled, adapting. First volley, resisted. Second volley, absorbed. Third volley, right before adaptation completed, hit the glands unprotected. The organism ruptured like a dying star, showering green and gold debris. Kravax steadied himself on the command cradle. "My gratitude, General." Weiss nodded. "Stay alive. I need your firing angle for the node strike." Kravax's crest straightened. "Understood." The swarm pushed harder. Their vessels flowed into new formations. Algorithmic, predatory, precise. The harvesting pylons on Tathrun pulsed, sending reinforcement signals to the cluster. O'Neill leaned closer to Weiss. This is escalating. It always does before the break. What break? Weiss pointed at a large organic construct emerging from the planet's shadow, a pulsating mass of tendrils and golden latticework. That, Weiss said, is the coordination node. Kill it, and everything else stumbles. Kravax's breath caught. General, that organism nearly destroyed 3 of our fleets. Then it's overdue to die. He turned to the fleet. All ships, synchronize fire on my mark. Sildari, prepare the cutting beam. We'll blind it first. Kravax answered with formal gravity. We stand ready. The node turned toward them, golden veins pulsing in anticipation. Distortion fields swelled. Weiss lifted his hand. 3. Human destroyers lock targets. 2. Sildari energy conduits hummed with green resonance. 1. The node released a distortion wave that threatened to shatter the formation. Mark! The void exploded. Human torpedoes slammed into the node's outer membranes. Sildari beams carved through exposed nerve clusters. Frigate fire burst across its flanks. A human carrier launched a dozen kinetic lances. Massive tungsten spears accelerated to hypersonic velocity. The node twisted, adapting, shifting, but it was too slow. Kravax fired the verdant lance's cutting beam directly into the creature's stabilization gland. The node convulsed. O'Neill whispered, "It's destabilizing." Weiss spoke over him, "Everyone brace." The organism imploded in a silent, golden collapse, sending shockwaves across the cluster. Kralon vessels shuddered. Some crashed into each other. Others drifted, confused, hive link disrupted. And then, something the galaxy had rarely witnessed. The swarm retreated, not panicked, not broken, just calculating, and deciding the battle was no longer worth the cost. One by one, Kralon vessels vanished into FTL, leaving the ruined harvesting pylons behind. Kravax stared at the empty space. They fled. You made them flee. Weiss lowered his hand, expression unreadable. They'll be back, but not today. O'Neill placed a hand on his shoulder. You just bought the galaxy time. Weiss didn't smile. Time is all we need. The aftermath was a slow burn of motion. Human engineers boarded damaged ships. Sildari warriors helped secure survivors. Medical teams moved between vessels. Pilots slumped in their seats, shaking off adrenaline. Kravax approached Weiss and O'Neill on the command deck. He bowed, a deep Sildari gesture of profound respect. You saved my world, Kravax said quietly. You saved what remains of my people. I am in your debt. Weiss shook his head. We weren't saving anyone. We were preventing the swarm from digging deeper. O'Neill spoke more softly. Sometimes those are the same thing. Before Kravax could answer, a communications officer turned toward them. General Weiss, Counselor O'Neill, you have an incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Priority 1. Weiss sighed. Of course they do. O'Neill already knew what it meant. They want to reinstate us, he murmured. The officer nodded. Yes, sir. They request your presence in a formal assembly. Weiss looked at O'Neill. You ready? O'Neill smiled, smoothing his coat. For diplomacy? Always. Weiss nodded once. Then let's hear what the galaxy thinks we owe them. The fleet drifted above the half-ruined Sildari world, engines glowing softly, casting long shadows across the ravaged continents below. Humanity had won the first battle, a single battle. Not the war. But the galaxy had already shifted. Everyone could feel it. The crystal hall of the Galactic Council stood rebuilt, its fractures mended, its pillars restored, its silvered floor polished to a glass-like sheen. But restoration could not erase the memory of fear. Delegates from every known species sat in their floating seats with a stiffness that had nothing to do with ceremony. For the first time in decades, no one spoke over one another. No one postured. No one sneered at humanity. The chamber felt humbled. Above the central dais, banners of the council shimmered in cascading colors. Ritual lights spun in slow, reverent spirals. Attendants moved quietly, adjusting translation fields and atmospheric pockets. Soldiers in ceremonial armor lined the upper balconies, not for display, but because the galaxy no longer trusted peace to hold itself together. A low chime echoed. All conversation stopped. The doors at the far end opened. Counselor O'Neill entered with the same calm dignity he had demonstrated at his dismissal cycles prior. His uniform was immaculate, tailored, and understated. He walked with hands lightly clasped behind him, posture straight, footsteps unhurried. He did not look victorious. He did not look angry. He looked sovereign. Behind him walked General Weiss, military coat still creased from battle work, boots heavy, expression cold and composed. He was not dressed for politics. He didn't need to be. Every species in the chamber had already watched his strategy break the swarm's advance. And flanking them both, walking with the careful pride of a warrior representing the rebirth of his people, was Kravax Tylex. He wore full Sildari ceremonial armor, obsidian black plates inlaid with emerald patterns that pulsed like living veins. His crest was lifted high. His steps echoed with meaning. When the trio reached the center, the chamber's lights dimmed. A resonance bell sounded, and then the High Counselor himself appeared. Varid Serev descended slowly from his elevated platform, crystalline limbs refracting the chamber's glow. His faceted surface, usually brilliant, dimmed into a solemn, respectful tone. His fractal voice carried across the hall with practiced gravity. Counselor O'Neill, General Weiss, Honored Commander Kravax, the Galactic Council welcomes you. No arrogance, no superiority, only formality and genuine remorse. Varid inclined his head deeply. For his species, this was the equivalent of kneeling. We gather today, he said, to correct a mistake that has weighed heavily on us all. The Council recognizes the pivotal role humanity played in the defense of Tathrun. Your discipline, your strategy, and your sacrifice saved millions, Sildari and otherwise. A murmur of agreement rolled through the delegates. Some lowered their eyes. Others nodded solemnly. Even the more prideful species held their silence. Varid continued, by unanimous vote, the Council has chosen to fully restore Earth's authority and position. We wish to reinstate you, Counselor O'Neill, as High Military Advisor of the Galactic Council, and O'Neill lifted one gloved hand. A quiet gesture, respectful, polite, but absolute. The entire chamber froze. O'Neill stepped forward, his expression calm, voice low, but his words carried to every corner of the massive hall. High Counselor, I request permission to speak. Varid nodded. Granted. A silence settled over the chamber, the kind of silence that comes only when an entire galaxy leans forward. O'Neill bowed his head slightly in thanks, then looked across the delegates, those who had mocked him, those who had supported him, those who now feared what humanity represented. His tone remained gentle. We appreciate your recognition, and we understand your intent. He paused, allowing those words to land. Then he continued, but humanity must decline the reinstatement. A wave of shock rippled through the chamber, audible gasps, startled chittering, shifting crystalline tones. Some delegates whispered frantically to their aides. Others stared openly, struggling to comprehend the refusal. Varid's glow dimmed further. Counselor, after all you have done, why decline? O'Neill met his gaze steadily. The Council seeks our leadership only when it fears its enemies, not when it values our judgment, not when peace holds. His voice did not rise. We cannot lead those who call upon us only when their fire becomes unbearable. He allowed that truth to settle like dust on glass. Across the chamber, the Avaran delegate, once dismissive, lowered his feathers in shame. The Armax Hierophant shifted uneasily, the heat of embarrassment radiating from his plates. O'Neill continued, tone still polite, still unshakably courteous. Humanity will stand with you when we choose to. We will fight when necessary. We will aid where wisdom demands. He folded his hands behind his back. But we will no longer be commanded. A quiet gasp. A murmur of disbelief. A fractal hum of stunned respect. Earth will act according to its own doctrine, he said. Our own timing. Our own rules. Weiss stood behind him, arms crossed, posture solid, silent confirmation of every word. Kravax took one step forward, armor gleaming. His voice resonated across the hall, firm and proud. The Sildari Dominion stands with humanity, not out of fear, but gratitude. His declaration echoed. Delegates turned toward him, some startled, others inspired. It was the first open alignment with Earth since before the swarm's return. Varid struggled for words. Counselor O'Neill, is there truly no path for humanity to rejoin us? O'Neill's smile was quiet, sad even, perhaps one day, but not today. He offered a final diplomatic bow. We wish you wisdom, counselors. He turned toward the ornate doors at the chamber's far end. Farewell, and good luck. Weiss followed him without hesitation. Kravax hesitated only long enough to bow once more, to humanity, not the council, before joining them. Their footsteps echoed down the silent hall as the doors slid shut behind them. And in the stunned quiet that followed, it became clear to every species present. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, not because the swarm had been beaten, not because the council had pleaded, but something simpler, something truer, something final. Humanity had chosen to walk its own path, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again.
Hey there, space human. I'm really curious about your thoughts on this video. Drop a quick comment and let me know what's on your mind. Or just say hi if you prefer. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. Also, remember to check the pinned comment. Trust me, it's worth a look. Oh, and one last thing. I've chosen another video for you to watch. Just click the card here, or here if you want the whole playlist. See you there.